The financial landscape has changed thanks to the financial crisis, and INSEAD's third annual Leadership Summit Asia on the Singapore campus focused on the theme of reinventing the future of business. The event's 300 participants included bankers and businessmen, politicians and professors, and not everyone was in agreement about signs of recovery.
It will be fair to say that this recovery lacks conviction because the fundamentals that led to the crisis haven't been resolved. We still have the global imbalance, which created the problem in the first place. When we look at the financial services industry, the big challenge which led to the crisis was the over-leveraged situation we had in the banks and in the individual balance sheets. And that hasn't changed because all that has happened is the leverage has moved from the private sector to the hands of the government. And finally, what we are not seeing is any stoppage in the growth in unemployment.
The summit also marked the start of INSEAD's 50th anniversary celebrations in Asia and the announcement of the first Leadership Summit in the Middle East in January at the school's new third campus in Abu Dhabi. The Asia Summit cautioned against putting too much faith in untried economic modeling as participants looked for root causes of the economic crisis.
We confuse mathematical complexity and sophistication with depth and rigor. It's very tempting to assign the blame on naive investors, but I think part of the blame also has to go on to the professionals and the people who have created the models.
Alumni professionals in the audience were even more outspoken.
But with all my respect, hedge funds, private equity funds, who's working there? These are extremely smart youngsters which are used to extremely smart mathematical models, and they are, and what we heard this morning, they believe everything can be modeled.
But governments did step in to stop the crisis from escalating. In some countries, the intervention was faster than in others.
The decision-making process actually in Beijing was quite short on this kind of matters. They don't need to go through the Congress. They
keep going. I like it.
they can have a consultation with all part of government, different department, and a consultation with academic people. They do seek for the advices, and they can make their mind very quickly, and their mind will translate to the policies very quickly.
In the aftermath of emergency measures come longer-lasting regulations, and that worries bankers.
The real thing that's hanging out there is the potential change in regulations. There is clearly a point where the regulators have taken upon themselves, the governments have taken upon themselves to be far more intrusive in the banking industry than they've ever been in the past. And the uncertainty of where the regulations might lead us is really the big challenge. And that's the lesson we are learning as the regulations are unfolding.
My theory is no regulator can compensate for total loss of common sense. If securitized junk would have not carried AAAs or AAs, the bubble, the financial crisis would not have happened.
The key question here is how fast can a corporation adapt to the changing environment? Mm-hmm. If the environment is, let's say, transparent, the business will follow that. So business behaves in the way the environment behaves.
Leading that charge, not regulation and oversight alone, but talent and entrepreneurship.
The truth of the matter is this, is that talent are global. No country can try to build a wall and stop the talented people from leaving the country.
A lot of people ask me on entrepreneurs, on people who innovate, is it something that you were born with, or is it something that you just sort of accidentally pick up over time? And I actually think it's much more the latter. I think there's too much of for entrepreneurs, there's too much focus on the extreme cases of the guy who doesn't go to college and Bill Gates and start something. The reality is the vast majority of entrepreneurs are business people like people in this room who came up with a good idea or took something over and just executed a little bit better than someone else and took more risk. So I think INSEAD is a great place to have the right skills. And I think the intangible skills you learn at INSEAD, where you don't learn elsewhere, is that you're dealing with different people, different situations all the time. And that's a skill that's useful anywhere.